Hello, boys and girls. Sit comfortably and open your ears and let me tell you a story because it's hashtag story time. A story on the importance of mindset. Now, we bore you about mindset all the time. I want to tell you a story about it instead. This is George Dantzig. George Dantzig was an American mathematician of the mostly 20th century, born in 1914, died in 2005. He did a lot of very important research in maths for which he won awards and things like that. In things like operational research and discrete optimization and sort of like linear programming. It's complicated. It's the kind of maths that helps you handle the logistics of an army. Is this kind of maths because maths is everywhere. Maths is useful for everywhere. So he won, in particular, the top award he did was the National Medal of Science. That is the highest scientific awards you can get in the US. Although I think that for me, I will remember it mostly for his mustache because I mean, come on, that is quite a mustache. Anyway, cast your minds back. We are in 1939 in the University of California, Berkeley. A young George Dantzig, already with the mustache, mind you, right? But young George Dantzig, so 1914, he is, what, 24, 25? He arrives late at a lecture. It's a statistics lecture, and he sees two problems on the board. So he writes them down, thinking it's the homework. He attends the lecture, he goes home, and then over the weekend, he starts doing the work, and he finds, and this is an actual quote from Mr. Dantzig himself, they seem to be a little harder than usual. Well, those two problems on the board were not homework, they were unsolved questions in statistics. So he's doctor. So this is it. He's doing this as a graduate, right? Like student. He's doing his PhD, and his thesis advisor just tell him, well, you've solved. Give me your proofs for that, and that's your doctorate, right? You've already done. Actually, that's two doctorates because one proof would have sufficed. This anecdote was kind of like taken. Often dancing can be called the real Will Hunting, right? Because the movie Good Will Hunting that launched the career of Matt Damon, who plays a janitor working at a university, sees a problem on the board and solves it. Turns out he's actually a math genius. Anyway, back to mindset. Mindset, super important. I'm sure like you've got it all through the eyes. They can be developed, they can be transcended. They're created by our experience or indeed by our trauma, and they are habits of our mind. This is how you set your mind. They can create blind spots, self deception, but also shape our world and our lives. Um, and yeah, you've seen that like a gazillion times. So how do I, we're telling you about those things, and we're telling you about, oh, instead of saying what's on the right, failure is a limit of my ability, you say what's on the left. But how do you do that, like practically? I'll come back to this. Right. So mindset is everything, or is it? Let me tell you another story of a woman who was about to get a top job, very important job, and people around her, maybe not so very close around her, but like just people were generally acknowledging that she was not qualified for it and she couldn't do it. But she believed in herself and she was able to do it for, was it, from the 9th of September to the 22nd of October. So mindset is everything, yeah, for sure, but it's not uh, it's necessary but not sufficient, right? But you still need to work, you still need to revise, you still need to have the knowledge, the skills, the proficiency. But you also need to think about what you're doing and think about yourself and think about your life and your studies in a constructive way, frame it in a way that ensures um, the best chances of success. So, one example in particular for mindset, another example is stress. You have just come out of your mocks. I'm sure you've had a little taste of the stress. It's going to get worse. Let me tell you, this spring is going to get worse. Don't think of it as pressure, overwhelming, or debilitating, although it can be. But think of it as a challenge, a motivator, an opportunity, energizing. Embrace stress. There is someone, can't remember, came up with the concept of eustress, eustress, as opposed to distress. So distress would be bad stress, eustress would be good stress, because stress is just a physiological, the stress response is a physiological reaction, usually to a threat or to something that's going on where you need to kind of amp up your body to perform better. So not all stress is bad. Obviously, chronic stress, excessive stress, being constantly in a state of stress, that is bad. That will actually remove whole years from your life expectancy. But because chronic stress is bad, I think maybe as a society, as a culture, we've tended to think that all stress is to be avoided, and that's not good. We need to just relate intelligently to our stress, as opposed to kind of trying to suppress and to fight it, and to just like tempt down on it, and be overwhelmed by it. Just lean into it. I have find it very helpful to reframe anxiety as nerves, right? Instead of, oh, I'm worried about this, it's more like, oh, I'm excited about this because there's something at stake. Like, think of the kind of nerves you give before performing. In a way, the stress of an exam, the nerves of an exam, it's the same thing. But practically, how do you change your mindset? Well, it's really a matter of words, right? We've seen, like, for the group stuff, let's move back past this, the sentences. But how do you go from the sentences on the right to the sentences on the left? Well, you need to say or write the sentences, notice what you have said or written, and then attempt to change it. You cannot do that just in your head. You can do it in conversations with peers, with family, with people close to you. Um, but you can also, I would recommend doing it by journaling, right? Just kind of write down, just, you know, worry dump what is stressing you, what is concerning you, what your how you see your life, or indeed your exams coming up, and then just to do like a whole page of that. That would be actually quite cathartic. Um, and then just read what you've written and see whether you can rewrite it and reframe it in a different way. And then, unfortunately, like everything, it needs practice. This is an exercise you need to repeat over and over and over again until it's second nature to think, not I can't do it, but I haven't done it yet because I'm still learning to do it, and there's no reason I couldn't do it in the future. A gratuitous code quote, there was a bit of that in the little bit of Philip K. Dick I was reading. Again, words, reality, the syntactical nature of reality. The real secret of magic is that the world is made of words. And if you know the words that the world is made of, you can make of it whatever you wish. I'll let that sink in for a bit. I'll leave you on another quote. I think we've gone full circle. This is from Andy Weir, the author of The Martian, which was adapted to the screen, featuring Matt Damon again. And he says, so this is in the book. I don't know if it's in the film. It might be, whatever. But like at some point, this comes right after. There's been like a really serious accident. So he was trying to like, I don't know, he was trying to get water. So he had to like slowly burn hydrogen that he had produced somewhere. It's a very, very nerdy book, The Martian. So if you're into science, I recommend it. Anyway, so this is after like this whole habitat, this whole Martian habitat just explodes. And then he says, I guess you could call it a failure, but I prefer the term learning experience. And if you frame your experience, your life in that way, you put all of the chances on your side.